and welcome to a new video. Now, a couple of months ago I made a video in which... Wait, November? Really? Was that long ago? Oh, bugger me. Anyway, apparently ages ago I made a video in which I randomly plucked 8 instruments from my frankly unnecessarily large virtual library, thence making a piece of music with them, and getting slightly obsessed with vegetable turkeys in the process. Don't ask. This time, however, what we're gonna do is the same thing. There's no twist or anything, we're just doing it again. Look, they can't all be original now, can they? Anyway, here's my library with all of its frankly unnecessarily large collection of instruments, and over here is the brand new generator. It's purple now. Nice. Now all I have to do is rapidly press this button up in the corner faster than a lab chimp on amphetamines, and we've got ourselves an ensemble more unorthodox than...
Insert punchline here.
Anyway, let's go! And we have... boom! Pont Pits, which is pizzicato cello. This is just a free little sample library that somebody called Matt Constantine made. Thank you very much, Matt Constantine. Isometra, so this is a kind of doomy pad synth thing, as Venus Theory does well. Contact Factory Vintage Devices, so like old synths. We're going synthy today by the looks of it. Or we're playing with the recorder. Got a piano. Nice to have a piano. A Cuban piano, to be very specific. A jug drum. Now, if I recall, I'm pretty sure what this is somebody hitting the big blue jug that you get on the top of a water cooler, which, I mean, is percussion. I'll take it. A harpsichord. Okay. And the Super Mario World sound fonts. I should have read ahead. What is... Okay, fine. It's on the list. It's on the list. I have to use it. I guess that's more than 8 instruments. I'm kind of imagining something quite epic, and then Super Mario comes along and a harpsichord. I don't know. This is going to be interesting. I don't know where this is going to go. Right, so having loaded everything in, hi, by the way, hands are here, hello. Having loaded everything in, there have been a few substitutions from what I randomly generated. The Cuban piano, for instance, is not Cuban anymore, it's cuboid, because I didn't have the Cuban one installed, and frankly, I couldn't be bothered. Also, the Super Mario World sound font that I had turned out it's unusably crap, let's say. So I had to replace it with something else. I do have a good sound font in the form of the Super Mario RPG sound font, which I understand is very different, but it's the closest I've got. Furthermore, the Contact Factory Vintage Devices I've never really used before, but it turns out that they're basically a huge array of presets of old synths, so I just plucked out a few that I think might be useful at some point, maybe, possibly. The basic idea I have is post-apocalyptic chase music. It's basically based on isometry, because isometry sounds like this. And if that doesn't scream post-apocalyptic, I don't know what does. Why chase music? Because we have the jug drum. Yeah, so we're just gonna sort of prod around with that. That's when the chase starts. I should specify what this isometry thing is. It's by Venus Theory. It's free from Decent Sampler. You get Decent Sampler, that's also free. And it has just a bunch of different presets of these weird sort of sounds that sound vaguely post-apocalyptic. So there's this one as well, which I'll probably use at some point, as well as this one, which I've just labeled Ah! But the one other thing I did think of doing with this, actually, is have it gated, which will fit with the sort of chasey vibe. I should probably actually think about a rhythm for this, like what is the rhythm I'm going for, right? Let's do something irregular. Set this to be 5/8. That might be good. Okay, let's see what this jug drum's doing. I want some sort of boom, right? And I don't really have a boom. Maybe Super Mario World is something I can use. It has percussion. It's all very thin. It's not really what I'm looking for. Let's mess around with some EQ, see what we can get. Something like that, that's good. Whoops. There we go, that's a bit better. Okay, let's see how this goes. I somehow managed to misplay that, and that's quite interesting. And this is why I'm not a performer. Still want more, you know. Is it more, or is it a little less? This may sound unpromising right now, but I promise you, promises will be promised. Right, let's get some actual action in here with the jug drum. Okay, cool. Okay, so we've got a rough sort of percussive thing going on. We don't really have any melody or harmony going on at the moment, but we have something in place. So this is a little free, somebody plucked their cello into a microphone and then sent it out into the world. But what I'm thinking, right, is if we give it a bit of space, give it a bit of environment to mess around in. It's a bit percussive, really. This be a sort of bass line. We could double this up with the synths, actually. Yeah. That'll do. What do you want? Are you annoyed at my clickety-clacking? So I've got this sort of rhythm in 5/8, which means sort of 5 fast beats, as it were. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And I'm just basically playing that rhythm, but with a bass line underneath that's sort of transposing between a D minor chord and then up to its sort of major second, E major, because they sound slightly weird together, because the third of the major is the flattened fifth, or augmented fourth, depending on your perspective, of the D. And those two things together sound real weird. You end up with what is essentially a happy chord, but because of the context of where it is, it sounds a bit strange. I like that. I think I went to F sharp major because it just sounded weird. This is chase music. It doesn't have to make sense. In fact, the kind of less sense it makes, the better, because it's supposed to put you off kilter. That's the kind of idea. That's my excuse, anyway. Takes a little while for air to travel through a tuba. That kind of works. I accidentally recorded the SNES strings going. Kind of works. This has got a kind of old school sort of boss battle feel to it. I'll keep it in, why not? Maybe we should start thinking about some sort of melody now. We have a harpsichord, I haven't mentioned that at all yet. And what I'm thinking of using it as a sort of zithery thing? That's interesting. Yes, cool, let's do that. Let's get that piano as well, because I've just realised what it can be good for. I always use pianos for this. It feels like such a cheat, but... That's always good. Nice to have that low piano pedal going on. We haven't used this pipe, actually. We have a Renaissance pipe. So, we haven't really done much with the intro. The intro is just kind of atmospheric bits and bobs. I mean, we don't have to have the pipe. It doesn't have to be playing naturally, does it? Okay, I'm going to try something weird. I'm going to try putting this pipe through a guitar amp. It's kind of interesting. Oh, that's hard on the ears. Ah, there we go. We've got some sort of distant, horrible siren thing. That's something. If I could be bothered, I would try and spell something out in Morse code here, but it's just going to be gibberish. Can I make them sound like actual bells? That might be quite fun. Okay, time to add some fluttery weirdness now, I think. This ending needs something else. It's lacking some sort of hook of some description. We don't have like an arpeggio-y sort of thing. Maybe we could do something like that. Maybe a vintage? Get one of those old vintage. I did have a saw. That could work with a decent amount of modulation. There we go. I want a kind of high thing to have something, I don't know, oh god, words. What do I call this? It's a high pluck. Pluck. Okay, I think that's probably as much as I'm going to be able to do right now. This is turning out all right, I think, given what I was given to start with, and the fact that I've never written anything like this before. That's kind of the point of this challenge, really, isn't it? Anyway, I'll see you when I'm done with the rest of it. See you in a bit. Right, it's the next day. I've done not too much to this, to be fair. It was pretty good as it was, just a bunch of mixing and things. But one thing I did realise after having done all of this was that basically at no point throughout the entire 2 hours or so that I worked on this did I explain anything I was doing. So let's do that now. So we start off with the pizzicato cello plucking along a bass line. It moves up for a particular chord, so it starts D minor, then it goes to E major. This is being also backed up by one of the synths, a synth bass that's doing the same sort of thing. The bulk of the work really is being done by this isometra thing, and it's just these lovely atmospheric things. I took that first sort of wah, and I added a gate to it. It basically takes a sound and it either lets it go through or it stops it. And if you do that really, really quickly in rapid succession, on, off, etc., you end up with a kind of stuttery effect. Which is a nice sort of, I've never really used that, but I knew it's a thing. I'd learned that from Guy Mitchell more. Look up his YouTube channel. It's real good. If you like music stuff and people being silly, he's top notch. And then we have these vintage devices here, these sort of old analog synthy sort of things. We have a saw wave here. Stuck a phaser on it to make it sound all wibbly wobbly. And we also have this weird sort of, I don't know what it's sort of, what's it called? Odinophone? I'll show a picture of it on screen. The tabor pipe is by far the one that I messed around with the most by passing it through a guitar amp and then just put it really far away so it sounded like some sort of horrific siren going off. The piano is doing what I think pianos do best. Classic. And then we have the water cooler jugs, which are doing basically all of the percussion. And because it was just one jug, I had to sort of jiggle it around a bit to get different sort of sounds. So I made a sort of bassy sound by basically changing the pitch. So I lowered the pitch, make it go really low. We have the harpsichord, which is strangely doing quite a lot of melody in this. But what I did is I gave it a very strong attack, so a lot sharper sort of chung sound when it starts. And then we have obviously the Super Mario RPG sounds. The only percussion I used was I took the bass drum from the drum kit in the game and just gave it a big sort of boom. We also have this accidental string line, which sounds kind of Metroid-y. And then we have the flutes, which are sort of playing alongside some of the synthy isometra plucks at the end. So that's basically what I've done here. I'm really quite pleased with it, surprisingly. But anyway, yes, this was I think even more of a success than the first time I did this, which is a surprise because I was not expecting this to work out at all. But yeah, this is absolutely, as usual with these experiments, not something I would have written myself by any stretch of the imagination. So it's kind of fun. If you enjoyed this, Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad you gave it a punt. But thank you very much to my patrons who support me in doing these nonsense activities. I very much appreciate it. And they get to see the activities early. They saw this video about a month earlier than you did. Unless, of course, you are a patron, in which case you can't see something a month before you do. That's not how time or tautology works. But I will be back very soon, I'm sure, with some sort of weird nonsense, and to play you out, here is this particular track, which doesn't really have a name. We should give it some sort of post-apocalyptic chase music name. It's kind of hopeful at the end, so I don't want to make it too dire, so let's say, like, out of the breach? So like the opposite of into the breach, I suppose. That feels about right. So thank you very much for watching, have a wonderful time, and I'll leave you with the track. Goodbye! Ah.